Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Was Betrayed and Planned It All, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Naruto listened to the drip of water as it hit the water below. He felt like there was a weight of his chest. He was still able to watch through Kichigai's eyes. A large portion of him smiled as he watched them all die. He felt pleasure as he watched their blood fly through the air. There was another drip. I'm so tired. He was able to see and feel everything. He felt his fingers wrap around Shikamaru's spine. He could feel his muscles tense as his feet forced Sakura's skull to cave. He could feel every clash of the sword while fighting against Sasuke. This was supposed Kichigai's goodbye gift, allowing him to see and feel these people as they died. He saw the sword come down on Sasuke. A small part of him wanted this to stop. It caused tendrils to go from his arms and dig into the water he was in. Drip. He noticed that Kichigai hesitated in that split moment. However, his slow and tired mind caught up to him. He remembered what the Uchiha had done and gave up again. He could feel his face muscles pull as Kichigai smirked at his resistance. He enjoyed seeing the blood fly through the air. I'm so tired. Darkness closed in as he fell asleep. Break. Naruto opened his eyes to find himself in a cell. The door was open, so he didn't know why he was in a cell, but he figured he was going to find out soon enough. He sat up and found that the short tendrils from his arms were still there. The longest one came from his left elbow and stretched 7 inches. They were black with red, pulsing veins and easily resembled roots. He walked through the door of his cell to find a different landscape than one he was generally used to. He found himself in what appeared to be an insane asylum. This was confirmed after he walked out of the cell block and down a hallway to see a plaque. Mount Massive Asylum for the Criminally Insane. Below was a date of the facility's founding and a list of the 4 founders. This place was an old asylum in Mizu that was run by some of Yagura's generals when he was still Mizukage. It was shut down and destroyed immediately when control of Mizu was taken from Yagura's control. The place had been conducting inhumane experiments on people for decades, even before Yagura had become Mizukage. He kept walking, wondering why he was in this place. It was supposed to be destroyed. He walked down a hallway and came to one of the security rooms. He opened the door and walked through to find himself on a beach. This was when he remembered that he was trapped within the mind of his madness. Kichigai. He said. Yes, Kichigai said. Naruto turned to his madness. What's going on? Well, I have no way of just disposing of you. I figured it might be simpler to give you the ability to walk around from time to time. I take it the insane asylum is your mindscape. Rather fitting. Kichigai nodded. So what's next? Naruto asked. Not sure yet. After all, I'm just a construct. This is your mindscape personifying your entrapment within his own. You know what his mindscape looks like, so you woke up in your own version of it. You and I both know that he will never come in here, but you also know his thought process. You know why you're able to move around. You're in your own mindscape, within his. Just like his mindscape was within yours when you had Dominion. I'm just your own subconscious here to explain things to you. If you're my own subconscious, then why does it take you to explain what I already know? For the same reason you had to ask that question. This is your mind, but it's not all here. You are also conscious on the outside of your mind, so you are sluggish and slow in both areas. That is why your subconscious manifested me. It's also why you manifested his mindscape to wake up in. Your mind is partitioned, but it still realizes that you are imprisoned. You won't be able to wake up either. It's part of your imprisonment. Naruto nodded to his subconscious. I can feel it. My mind isn't working as it usually does. It's slow. I'm moving and thinking sluggishly. I'm tired, even though I feel like I've been sleeping for a long time. Break. Naruto laid on his back within the small pool of water within the sewer. I'm so tired. The tendrils in his arms pulsed only once as he saw Gaara and the other Jinchuriki die. He wanted to stop it, wanted to stop the death, but he was just too tired. The tendrils pulsed many times during the rest of the war. He wanted to stop the destruction of iron and snow. He wanted to stop the destruction. To stop the death. But I'm too tired. I'm so tired. Break. Naruto sat within his mindscape, looking at the glass case that held the other parts of his mind. His mind still felt tired. His mind had actually become more sluggish as the case had cracked further. He knew that something was happening to his mind if the other parts were waking up. There were still many asleep in the case, but 7 of them were seated around him. 2 more were sitting directly in front of him, while the other 7 had changed features, such as hair firmly standing upwards with a prominent widow's peak, or short, blue hair that rested flat on their head, or the fact that many of them had different facial structures. The ones in front of him were mostly featureless. The one on Naruto's left was a white, featureless version of Naruto's silhouette. It was outlined with a black haze. It had its right leg pulled up so that its knee came near its chest. It had its right resting on the knee while its left hand was entwined with the right hand of the other. The one on Naruto's right was different. It was completely black with a muscular body and had a multitude of eyes and wide grins over his body. It was sitting in a similar position as its counterpart. Do you know why you are here? The one on his left asked. It had wavy, blood-red hair that stretched to the floor it was sitting on. He had a stern expression on his face. Naruto nodded. Because I made mistakes. I allowed things to happen even after I said I would not allow them to. Wrong. You are here because of the mistakes of others. The redhead shouted. He is here because of the pain others have caused us, the black one in front of him said in a rather deep and ominous voice. The white one chuckled with a raspy voice. He is here because we are all here. And we are all here because of the experiences of our life. His form shifted so that he became Kichigai. Then he shifted to look like Naruto before returning to his original form. I am you. I am the truth of your despair, the inescapable price of your actions. And now, I will bestow upon you the despair you deserve. That is why I'm here. I am truth. In particular, I am our truth. What truth are you here to represent? And why hold hands with suffering? Naruto asked. Suffering was the representation of pain, hatred, regret, and everything that made up his namesake, though hatred and sadness were among those around Naruto. Truth smirked further. There is no such thing as a painless lesson. There is a truth to our pain. That is why we are here. And why are so many representatives here for me to learn the truth of my suffering? The many mouths on suffering's body gave large smirks, or perhaps frowns. It was difficult to tell. The only definite one was the one on his face that was smirking. What do you mean? There is only one person here. The room spun and the other forms merged. When the room stopped spinning, showing only one thing in front of him. You are the only one here. We are just parts of you. Naruto stared into the mirror. It was his mirror. His cracked mirror. Many faces looked back at him from the different shards of glass. The mirror started pulling itself together to show truth staring back at him again, but with distinguishable features this time. It was clear that it was supposed to be a silhouette of Naruto's own form. Then he blacked out. He could feel his mind coming together, and yet, it was also tearing itself apart. Break. The world became white. Naruto looked over to see Hinata next to his chair. Hinata, you're alive. She smiled. It really doesn't matter now, does it? Her form shifted back to truth. You're calling me truth in your mind, but because I now represent most of your partitioned mind, it might be better to just call me your subconscious. It's a much closer name. Though, I suppose I could just remain in the form of Hinata. This is our mind after all. Why are we here? We. How dull. I am here because I'm a part of your mind. You are here because of your weakness. She died, and it's all your fault. Kichigai appeared again as Naruto was brought back to that plane of consciousness. There are a great many people who have died, and will die, because of you. No, it's not. Things became white again. Hours passed. No, it is my fault. Are you just now realizing that? Naruto's subconscious asked. You can sit here blaming yourself over and over, but that won't change anything. You couldn't do what you know needed to be done. That is why it's your fault. It's not that surprising, is it? Why did this happen? Coincidence? An accident? Fate? There is no such thing as fate. It's just a combination of one circumstance after the other. There was a long pause. The subconscious spoke up again. The actions one takes are answered by consequences waiting at their conclusion. There are no exceptions and even you cannot change this. There is no escaping the inevitable. And now you are confronted with the results of your acts, consequences you never imagined, and yet, there are more to come. If these unintended consequences help to create new roads, who will bear the blame for the sins that are committed, who will take the punishment, and who will measure it out? In this world, evil can arise for the best intentions, and there is good which can come from evil intentions. How then, should your actions be taken? Every man has his day of judgment, does he not? He who allows a weak will to fuel themselves, will find his own heart isolated, whether he wants it that way or not. Thus he plummets into the abyss which lies between good and evil. And who is it that creates these circumstances? Just who is it? The subconscious being backed up. There was another pause. It's you. The subconscious said. There was a quote once. Incompetence begets suffering. The person who said that was right. This whole mess started out with your own naivety. You were a naive fool, and even your own mind was able to take advantage of you. The world messed around with your mind a bit, and now we're a monster. And it's all because of you. Your foolishness is the reason you're going through all of this. If you were strong enough to kill Sasuke, Hinata would have been spared. If you had chosen Konoha and its defenders, then all the people who Kichigai has killed would have been spared. If you had been strong in that moment. Naruto looked up and saw Hinata die again. He cried out for it to stop. And there is still more to come. Naruto saw his own hands kill the other Jinchuriki, as well as Akira and his family. Then there are the ones you cherish most. All of them. Naruto saw Izu, his friends, everything he cared about, die before him. Naruto screamed and struggled against the chains on the chair. He cried out, trying to stop the visions. He blacked out again. Break. The world shifted to a room in Kichigai's mindscape. There was a man in front him. It was one of his corrupted pieces of his mind. It was corrupted by Kichigai, though Naruto was unsure of which piece. It was similar to the way truth merged with some of the others. He was scarred, withered, and bony. He was mostly bald apart from some white strands of hair. These characteristics were onsets from Kichigai's infection of the piece. He had a surgical mask on his face and a blood-stained apron over his front. He was turned around to look at a table of torture tools. All that talking with truth. What's the point in that? You wanna know the mistake you're making here, buddy? You think you're gonna find the truth. You think you'll uncover something, and everything will just fall into place. Some grand revelation, that'll make sense of all these unspeakable horrors. That'll explain what could drive men to such creative extremes of inhumanity. I hate to be the one to break the bad news, but even when you think you understand what's happening here, you're only gonna be halfway down the rabbit hole. It's always been the case that whoever's holding the money gets to say what the truth is. But then what happens, when all the money's gone? When everything is based on debt, on credit. Come on, buddy, you can guess this one. It's faith. Money is a matter of faith. All we were ever trying to do is sell you the dream, but you can't make a deal if you've got nothing to bargain with. You gotta be inside the dream to buy it. You gotta have faith. And that's what I'm here for. The corrupted faith said. He turned around to reveal a large torture blade in his hand. To make you believe. He walked closer with a smile on his face. Naruto screamed in agony for hours as his own mind started tearing him apart. Break. Naruto could feel himself falling. He opened his eyes to see the sky above him. It was such a wonderful sky, and the wind felt great against his skin. He turned his head to see the ocean below him. Then he fell into it, sinking beneath the waves. He floated back up a moment later, reaching for the blue of the sky. However, he surfaced to see the ceiling of a cave above him. He was now floating in a pool deep within a cavern. Drip. He started sinking again. He looked down into the darkness below as he continued to sink. The darkness enveloped him. He closed his eyes, but when he opened them again, though slowly, he was chained to a chair. He could feel injuries all over his body. He then felt a hand on his face. Hi, N.A., Ta. The hand patted him on the face. He looked up, but what he saw made his eyes shoot open. Long time no see, Naruto. Kichigai said. What happened? You're all beaten up. That's hilarious. I'm so tired. The world turned white again. Truth stood there, speaking as if he had never been interrupted. You see, the subconscious asked. This is the path you chose. The future that you chose. Naruto bent over and cried. Why are you crying? Why are you sobbing? This imaginary wood that someone else created, you shouldn't be afraid of it. Do you know why? Because there's no pain here. But back to the matter at hand. You would rather forsake the world than hurt those you consider your friends. You are peace and justice. You may think that you're both of these things, but in reality, you're forsaking both. Stop. If you had killed Sasuke, you could have preserved what you truly cared about. That's what you should have done, right? In your heart, that's what you truly wanted to do, right? Truth said. He gripped Naruto's head and made him nod. Naruto sobbed, but it only lasted a moment. You're right. I hate being alone. I wish I would have chosen what I know I should have. I wish I would have chosen Hinata and Azu and my dreams and my peaceful world. I wish I would have chosen for the sake of those things. I wish I had protected those things. I should have helped her keep her promise. Even if it meant forsaking, killing, Sasuke, your friend. Even if it meant giving up on your dreams. Even if it meant slaughtering anyone, man, woman, or child, who stood in your way. Of course. None of that could have stopped me. None of that would have stopped me. Or rather, it wouldn't have if I had chosen correctly. Good. Truth said before hugging him close. Sometimes you need to forsake one thing to save another. You couldn't do that before. That isn't kindness. That's just being weak. You didn't have the strength, the resolve to turn your back on one of your friends. You see, that is the truth I've been needing to teach you. The truth your own mind has been trying to make you understand. Naruto sank into the depths again. The waters around him spun in a maelstrom. He eventually stood on solid ground once again. He looked into the spinning walls of water in front of him. He could see the watery form of his mirror image, though it was clearly his dark self. The face smiled back at him. Why don't you give in to him? Let him destroy this world. With all the wrongs that have been done to you, it seems like you have all the more of an incentive. His darkness said. Naruto stood straight. I won't let him do that. I must protect what I cherish. The world spun faster, becoming a blur. When it stopped, truth was standing back again. Do you still wish to hurt? Can you abide someone like your old self or Kichigai? No, I can't. Nor will I. In due time, Kichigai will succeed in destroying the world. I won't allow that. Naruto replied instantly. Your friends and your home and your family will be subject to the same suffering as you. It's only a matter of time. I will show no mercy to anyone who tries to take them from me. Not even to Kichigai. Not even to myself. Do you have that kind of strength? Yes. And what about her? Can you accept her death? Yes. I will not let her death consume me. Not again. I will take what has happened and use it to shape the world, as it will shape my life. Then prove it to me. Don't you mean for me to prove it to myself? Truth smiled. Now you're starting to get it. The other forms of Naruto began to appear around him and Truth. The corrupted forms appeared as well, but as they got closer to him, they became clean again. Faith's wounds repaired themselves and his muscle filled back out. He removed the apron and face mask. His hair began to grow back out, though staying the same color. They all fused into one being to stand in front of Naruto as a mirror image of himself. Well done. Break. Naruto opened his eyes as he felt himself being shaken. It was Kichigai. Wake up. Wake up. The world is finally ending. Our plans have come to fruition. Kichigai was expecting Naruto to still be weak. He was not expecting Naruto to punch him, sending him flying into the wall. I have not come this far to die now, Naruto said as he sat up. He was really in Kichigai's mindscape now. There was finally clarity to his mind. He stood up. Naruto took a step and the world flickered back to the beach of Naruto's mind. The flicker stopped back in Kichigai's mind. How did you break free? You were broken. Kichigai shouted. Not anymore, Naruto said. He stepped forward again and the world switched back to Naruto's own mind. The glass case was to the side. He held out his hand towards it as the glass regrew. Naruto charged forward and grabbed Kichigai by his throat. Not anymore, Kichigai. I know now what it is I must do. I know now that I must accept her death. But there is more to it. You are a part of me. No. You are a part of me. No. I must accept you. Such up. I own this REALLITYNOW. And I'm already destroying this world. Not anymore. Naruto threw Kichigai into the solid glass of the case that held his duplicates. The glass held firm and Kichigai slid down to the floor. The real world reappeared as Kichigai absorbed the power he was radiating. His eyes rolled back before he created a shadow clone that Naruto took over immediately. Kichigai regained control over his body just before Naruto punched him. Kichigai was up a moment later. A kunai was in his hand. As he went to stab Naruto, his target grabbed the blade. The kunai dug into Naruto's palm and fingers, causing Kichigai to smirk. Naruto's head turned to look at him with stone eyes. After everything else, you think something like that hurts me. His face curled into a cruel smirk. Now then, it's my turn. Naruto twisted around and kicked Kichigai in the head, sending him flying. Did you think I would want to just stand back and watch you destroy the world? No, I'm not high on the idea of living out the rest of my days being an observer to your actions. I want the thrill that comes with actually playing the game. I love this game that people call life, from the bottom of my heart, and I want to keep playing on my terms, for a while longer. Kichigai looked up at him from his position on the ground. Look around you. There's nothing left for you to save anymore. And with the power I've gained, I've become a god. Kichigai was mostly right. For miles in all directions there was nothing but barren, destroyed wasteland. If one were to look far enough, they could just tell that they were at the center of a massive crater. The elemental nations had been destroyed and what was left of the oceans was flowing into the crater. None of what we see here matters anymore, Naruto said. He placed his hand on what became a solid wall of air. What are you talking about? Look around you. The tendrils grew out of Naruto's arms again. The world cracked as the tendrils drilled into the wall of air. What's going on? Kichigai shouted in panic. We're going back to reality. Everything shattered. The wasteland, the crater, the world, they all disappeared. They all shattered. They both opened their eyes to find themselves in Naruto's mindscape once again. The real one. Kichigai charged at Naruto. However, his fist is a solid, yet invisible, barrier. Naruto twitched his hand and sent his madness flying back at the glass case. He groaned. Naruto gripped his throat and pulled him up by it. He started crushing it. And no, please, don't. Kichigai ground out. Naruto smirked. I didn't know you could still be afraid of dying after becoming a god. I guess the first thing to do would be to stop you from using any power at all. He said. I hereby seal away as much of your power as I can, Kichigai. Kichigai exclaimed in pain as he felt most of his remaining energy being drained away. Sealing a rays clawed at Kichigai, ripping into him. Into his mind. Naruto then held out his hand, his head hanging low. Though, it doesn't matter much anymore. You are all parts of my mind. So, I will have to accept you. I accept you. Kichigai tried running, but was unable to escape the white light that shot from Naruto's hand. The glass case folded in on itself. Naruto saw truth and suffering smiling as they faded. When the white light faded to show the other parts of his mind no longer there. Naruto collapsed, smiling. It's over. Break. Kichigai stood above Sasuke, his sword raised in a moment of hesitation. In that crack of thought, in that crack of time, Naruto experienced everything. Everything with his mind. Everything that Kichigai would do. Everything. Kichigai faltered. He dropped his blade and grabbed his head. He was screaming in agony as he backed away. I have not come this far to die now. He ground out. One of his eyes had returned to the white sclera and cerulean iris. How did you break free? You were broken. Kichigai shouted. Not anymore. It was clear that the calm was Naruto, and that the panicked voice was Kichigai. Not anymore, Kichigai. I know now what it is I must do. Naruto said as he stumbled backwards. No, you are a part of me. No, I must accept you. Kichigai fell to his knees. He screamed louder for a moment. It's over, Naruto said. His face became calm as he looked over at Sasuke. Both of his eyes had returned to normal, but his hair had not. He sighed as he stood back up. Sasuke, there are two things you need to know in this exact moment. The first is that I have regained control and Kichigai is gone. The other is that I will no longer see you as a human being. You are nothing more than another object in this world. You don't have a choice anymore. Naruto said before tossing him a scroll. You, my new pawn, will take the Hokage in that scroll and return to your village. I'm sure that it won't be too difficult to find the bodies of everyone else, and I do believe that Choji was left alone after I knocked him out. Go back and use all of them as leverage. You will seize control of your village for the next few months. Go to Konohamaru. He will help you. Tell him it was on my orders. After everything has been brought under control, you will have Konohamaru take power. He has been studying up on the responsibilities of the Hokage and how to perform them. He will be more than adequate. I will handle the daimyo so that the politics will be out of your way. You have 8 months to follow these orders. My armies will be there after that time is up. And then you will give Tsunade a public execution along with several other people. Now go. Naruto turned and started to walk away. Naruto, wait, what happened? Sasuke said. Naruto turned back around. Oh, I had forgotten that you are too broken at this moment to act on your own. Fine. Allow me to show you one of my trump cards. I no longer need to keep it hidden. Naruto flew through several hand signs before pushing his hands to the ground. Edo Tensei. Sasuke was unable to anticipate just how many coffins would emerge. It started as 1, and then 3 more. Then there were 7 more. In a matter of seconds, there were hundreds. The first one opened to reveal a man that Sasuke didn't recognize. It wasn't until the man opened his dead eyes that Sasuke's own widened in horror and shock. He had read about this man in his clan's archives. The man had the Mangekyo Sharingan. He was Izuna Uchiha. However, he was further shocked by the next 3 coffins. They opened to reveal Fugaku Uchiha and Mikoto Uchiha and Shisui Uchiha. Naruto had revived the entirety of the clan slaughtered during, and just before, the massacre. The only acceptation was the revived Izuna. Once you approach Konoha, all but Fugaku, Mikoto, and Shisui are to remain out of sight. However, the previously stated 3 are to remain in disguise. Naruto said. The army of Uchiha nodded. Now then, there are 2 things to address. The first is that Izuna is coming with me. Once I'm gone, Mikoto, Shisui, and Fugaku will gain consciousness. At that point, you can explain things to them as you please. Now, the second thing. Sasuke, you will follow the orders I just gave you or your village will be decimated in an instant. And do you know what I will do to you? Kill me. Sasuke asked. Kill you? No. Don't be obvious. I mean I'm going to kill you anyway someday. I don't want to rush it though. I'm saving it up for something special. No. If you ever get in my way again, I will burn you. I will burn the heart out of you. So just remember this. From now on, you follow my orders, you kneel to me, and you will remember the power I wield. If you ever forget that, my pawn, then you will suffer. Naruto and Izuna disappeared an instant later within the Hiraishin. When Naruto appeared in his office, he started falling forward, too tired to stay awake any longer. Hands caught him as he fell. He was about to embrace sleep when he felt the wind ruffle his hair and clothing. At first he thought that it might be an unusually strong wind through an open window, but then he smelled ash and burning bodies. This wasn't right. Something was horribly wrong. His eyes shot open as he caned his neck and looked over his shoulder. There was no window. There was no wall. There was no office. Most of what had once been his office was gone. Destroyed. Burned. He pushed the hands away from him, the smells in his nostrils giving him new life, and new flames of hatred. He turned and looked out. His village. Why was this happening? It was ablaze. The village of Azu was burning. Tears flowed down his face as he bore a look of hatred, sadness, and disbelief. Who did this? Who did this to my village? Naruto asked. Shino, Anko, Obito, and Kamaji walked up to him. We have a major problem, Naruto. Obito said. Madara Uchiha and Kabuto showed up. They did this, Shino said. And, he said, unable to finish. Anko sighed. And they have Yagura and Yugito. We don't know about Killer Bee or Roshi, but Gaara and the others are safe. And then they left. When Madara realized that they had no way of getting the Gedo statue right now, they left. Naruto stood there a moment. He looked out over the flames. This was it. This was where his new path began. This was where the war path started. And when this path ended, he was going to find some way to bring Madara back to life. That way the path could end with him bathing in Madara's and Kabuto's blood. That was where this would end. An endless sea of blood. Peace could wait. And it would wait until Naruto decided there was enough blood. Break. The man walked down the tunnel, his head hung low. Come on, Naruto. Did you expect me to go down that easily? No, I'm alive. The man stood in the darkness for a moment before standing up straight. His muscles strained as he started shouting. I'm alive and kicking, Naruto. You can't stop me that easily. He shouted, his voice echoing in the cave. His slouched back down again as he thought about his narrow escape. You can't stop me that easily. The man mumbled. He pushed his white hair behind his ears, looking into the cave. His golden sclera glowed as he held out his hand. Now the world ends. You still failed. Destruction of all things, unravel. Sparks flew from his hand before he gripped his arm in pain and shouted. His power was drained considerably. Damn you, Naruto. Kichigai shouted. He let out a large sigh. At least you were wrong about one thing, he said lowly before chuckling. This is far from over. So, Naruto Uzumaki wants to meet with me. How interesting that my brother's inheritor should come to me of his own volition. Oki, I said. Shina stood in the corner as she gave her report. And you said that he is recently suffering attacks from who? Madara Uchiha. Shina said. He sighed. I take it that things are finally being set in motion by Black Zetsu then. You still remember the plan? Yes, sir. Good. Get started. We have work to do. Start out with Bluebeard and Ryunosuke. Oh, and get Balalaika to help you. I suspect you're going to need her help dealing with all of them. There is one more thing. We've been tracking his movement. He's headed for us. How exactly does he know where we are? Probably the same way he found out about your brother. You think he knows? Of course. The moment the barrier of Azu came down, you had me monitor Naruto's progress with finding any of Roku's records. Kichigai's first breakout coincides with when the seal notified us that the vault was sealed. When Kichigai came back out, there was nothing but ashes within. I don't think someone, not even someone insane, would destroy all of that without first getting the information. Alright, make sure to get Naruto here eventually. If Kaguya gets resurrected, not even our society will be safe. Break. The man walked forward, not caring about his newly found lack of power. His face was rather slim but fit his overall structure. He had recently had his cloths made. He wore a baggy white coat, a white shirt, and white pants. He blew a strand of his white hair out of his face as he walked towards the small village ahead. As he walked forward, he thought about how he would get his power back. He smiled. This isn't a mindscape anymore, Naruto. This is the real world. His smile transformed into an evil smirk. I'll come back for my power, Naruto. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is far from over. What little power he had left flared to life as insanity glinted in his golden sclera. For the next hour, he set that small village ablaze. For the next hour, that village was consumed by madness. It was consumed by Kichigai. Break. Kichigai burst through a wall. He threw his sword through the dust and into the chest of one of the people in the room. Blood and wind scattered the dust. He looked at the camera there a moment. He smiled and walked up to the device and turned it off. Looks like the cat's out of the bag. I think I'll leave it that way. Let you rack your brain. When you do figure it out, then you'll be able to come after me. Then I have the chance to get my power back. Break. Shino, you and your clan send out your insects. If there are still people in the rubble, I want to know. Naruto said from his hospital bed. Shino gave a small nod and stepped back a bit. Akira, get your spies out there on the other nations and villages. I want to know what they're doing. Akira and Angela left the room to carry out their orders. Obito, you and Guruguru find out if Madara, Kabuto, and Zetsu are still using the mountain graveyard, but only after you warn Nagato. Madara will eventually go after the Rinnegan. Tell Nagato that I want him to take shelter here, or let us hold on to his eyes for now. We don't need Zetsu getting those eyes. Warn him that I insist. Also warn him that if he still resists, you are under orders to destroy his eyes. Obito nodded before disappearing in a swirling distortion. Anko, you head to Oto and tell them what happened, and set up teams to go to the other nations of Orb and report in. Neji, I know this is going to be difficult, but find a way to take control of your clan. I don't need them causing panic right now. With that, Anko and Neji left the room. The rest of you, I want not only Azushiogaku and Azu no Kuni, but all of Orb, completely mobilized and ready by the time I'm out of this bed. Dismissed. When Naruto's orders were done, he was left alone. All alone except for Shino still standing there. I gave you an order, Shino. Naruto said. My insects are taking care of it. Naruto said nothing. Instead he laid there with his arms outstretched in front of him. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You don't seem fine. I've never been better. It wasn't a lie. His mental state was the best it had been since he was a small child. Shino gave him a stare that said everything. In case you missed it, Shino, one of our own is dead. Our village is just putting out the flames that were consuming it when Madara attacked. And let me remind you that at any point in time that they wish, they can come back and sink this island to the bottom of the ocean. I would say that for the situation, I'm doing pretty fucking well. Shino didn't respond at first, causing Naruto to sigh. Naruto, I know how you feel. There is nothing I want more than to allow my insects to devour Konoha and our other enemies. Nothing I want more than to leave them alive while they have colonies built in their bodies, to cause unimaginable pain that will never end. I haven't missed what's been happening, my friend, but perhaps you missed that you were not the only one affected by these events. Shino paused. I told you once that I would always protect you as you have protected me, and I intend to stand by your side and Anko's side until one of us dies. Just don't let what's going on consume you like you did a week ago. I had my insects watching. I'm glad you overcame Kichigai, but you almost let him completely devour you. But if you let something else consume you, then everything you have done will be in vain. Shino then turned and walked away, leaving Naruto to his thoughts. I will protect you, Shino. And Anko. And Azu. I will protect it all, even if costs me my life. I have made my choice. You may have been angry that I left Sasuke alive, but believe me when I say that the moment Konoha is under my fist, Sasuke will die with his old and archaic world. He along with any other fool that stands in my way. But I wonder, perhaps I should leave it up to him. Naruto leaned over and pushed a button. A nurse walked in a moment later. Do you need something, Lord Azuki? Yes. Ask one of the Anbu outside to find Itachi and bring him here. Tell them that there is no real urgency, but I do need to speak to him. She nodded. Yes, sir. When she was gone, Naruto was once again left to his thoughts. He bit his finger and formed seals before placing his hands to the sheets over him and activating the summoning and created a puff of smoke. Ru appeared above him. You've looked worse, Ru said after studying him for a moment. Thanks, Naruto responded. Listen, I take it you've heard about Madara attacking. Yes, I have no doubt that somehow things are going to go wrong. From bad to worse. I want you to ask Shenron a question. I can combine my Sage Chakra and Tailed Beast Chakra. I can merge them, so I want to try something. Break. Akira walked into Naruto's hospital room and saw him talking to Itachi. You have the choice, Itachi. Naruto said. I think the choice is ob, Itachi said. I don't care what you think the choice is. You can think it over as long as you want. You have 2 deadlines. The mandatory one is in 8 months when we march on Konoha. The second is an optional one. The moment you say the sentence out loud is the moment it becomes final. So think it over as long as you can. Itachi nodded before noticing Akira. He walked out of the room wordlessly. Akira walked up to Naruto. I've got a report. While we were getting the air fleets mobilized, a scout brought me something you need to see. Akira pulled out a tripod and a large box that he aimed at the wall. He turned the projector on and placed in the semi-colored reel. Over the past few days, someone has been carving a path through small, non-shinobi, villages in Orb's territory. They haven't left any survivors, so until now we haven't gotten an identification on who it is. He said as he turned the device on. At first there was nothing wrong with the image displayed. It was just the interior of a house. However, the wall in front of the camera was destroyed a second after the start. Smoke kept the person from being seen initially. Then there were screams as a blade flew through the air and blood scattered. The dust was blown away and caught in the blood. The face Naruto saw made his drain of color. Akira stopped the film as Kichigai's appearance was shown on the image. Get out, Naruto. Akira Uzumaki. Get out of here now. Within another moment, Naruto was alone yet again. Only a week. One single week I'm out of commission and everything goes wrong. Naruto said as he stood up. He groaned in pain as he slid off the bed and put his legs under him. This pain was more of soreness, but he was still healing. That bastard Kichigai had tried utilizing both Sage modes at once and nearly tore his body apart. So I was right. Even after everything else, you used my own most powerful and secret trump card against me. You used it to escape. But it doesn't matter. You're smarter than this. You left the camera there because you'll be gone before we can get you. You'll disappear before we can catch you. Completely off the map. He was silent for a moment as he thought. But where will you hide? You'll look for armor to have until you can come back to face me in my weakest moment. So I'll seek you out and find you while your own weakest moment persists, even now. But I wonder where you. He stopped as realization hit him. Ooh. Will you go to them in seek of shelter? If you do that, on the off chance they grant you asylum, then even I can't touch you. You are, after all, as smart as I am. If I could guess that this quickly, you've been working it out for a week already. You might already be with them. He then hummed in thought and nodded to himself. So, I'm done resting. I have work to do, and not long to do it. Break. Kichigai walked among the crowd as he worked his way through the small, underground village, the village of immortals. Honestly, this is not what I was expecting from the immortals encountered so far. He thought to himself. These people clearly did not have the resources to have many real buildings. Most of these people lived in large tents. This didn't mean they lived poor-looking lives. They had the clothes any common villager from any other village would, if not a hair's breadth better. The tents were more than just camping tents. They were tarps and tents that seemed like good, comfortable living space for leaders on the move. Better even than mobile war rooms. Real mobile living quarters. Though, there were still buildings around. Closer to the center, there were more houses. It was clear that they had started improvements from the center and worked outward when they gathered the supplies needed. The house in the center was a normal home with a second story over only half the building. However, as nice as the village seemed to be for their limited resources, everyone looked at him like he was some sort of creature walking by. He wondered why. He assumed it was because of the slaughter spree he had been on these past few days. Though, now he wondered why that would be considering what they did. He brushed the thought away as he kept walking to the center of the village. Towards Okiai. When he got to the opening of Okiai's home, he noticed a woman standing there. Sheena. He got to the door and she opened it for him. So you were waiting for me? Kichigai said as he walked through. Yes we were. Okiai said, walking in from around a corner. Follow me. I have drinks waiting in the dining room. Kichigai did as told and walked with Okiai. As they went into the dining room with Sheena walking behind them, Kichigai observed Okiai. He didn't look like much more than a man in a nice suit at first, but upon further observation, one could see the power just beneath the surface. They walked over to a table and sat down before Okiai started pouring a clear liquid from a glass bottle into 2 cups. So then, you're the brother of, Kichigai began. You are nothing more than a fragment of his inheritor. Don't speak his name to me. Okigai interrupted. Kichigai held up his hands. All right, fine. Well, do you know why I'm here? Yes, you're here to see if we'll shelter you from Naruto. And will you? We have granted it to worse people before. Though, they're gone now. I can't guarantee you your shelter for too long. However, you aren't immortal. That means that, while I can tell the village not to harm you, I won't be responsible for your safety. But, you will have someone watching over you. One of our newer members. Their need for death is one of the least right now, so she should at least be able to tolerate you. No, let me rephrase that. She should be able to tolerate you not being immortal. Which leads me to my last rule of this. Don't cause any trouble or the punishment should be obvious. Of course. I'm insane but I'm not crazy or stupid. Fine. Fu. Come on in. Fu. As in the Jinchuriki. What is she doing here? Kichigai turned around in his chair toward the sound of a door opening. No. Fu the immortal. A woman said as she walked in. She looked like she was around Kichigai's, or Naruto's rather, age, but Kichigai knew that if she was among the immortals, she would be much older. She had brown hair in the style of a ponytail with 2 parts of her hair that hung down. one being in on her right side and one being in front of her face on the left side. She wore a deep pink kimono with a pattern of flowers. Fu here will be your escort around here, as well as the one to keep the other immortals from forgetting that you are our guest. I do understand why they will be anxious around you, but I personally find discourtesy to unspeakably ugly. However, you see, there are only two things that enable one of us to resist our bloodlust with relative ease. Lack of age, by comparison of course, and, once again by comparison, intensely great age. Fu is one of the former, I and Sheena being of the latter. Now then, don't forget your place here. Other than that, enjoy your stay. I said before standing up. He gave a nod to Fu before leaving with Sheena. Ready for your tour? Fu asked, bending slightly so that she was at eye level with him. Sure, Kichigai said, standing up to follow her out the back door she had come in through. Break. I sat down in his office in the upper floor of his home. Sheena did as she usually did. She stood on the edge of the room quietly. So, you only got back an hour ago. What happened with the cultists? I asked. Their bodies are in several pieces, each piece in separate blocks of cement, and at the bottom of random lakes and the ocean. Though, some did manage to get away. Balalaika is interrogating one of them. From what I saw last time I checked on her, she won't be much longer. I pinched the bridge of his nose. Is she in that whole, blaring opera music, phase of her interrogation? Sheena nodded. It wasn't pretty. I can tell you that. She used some of those tools to hold their eyes open and lit flashbangs in their faces. She took one of the ones that can regrow whole limbs and repeatedly cut off fingers, toes, hands, arms, feet, legs, and, she paused and gave a small cough, and other extremities. It was brutal to watch. Break. Naruto walked down the hall of the tower with Akira and Mikasa walking next to him. He sighed. We have too many things to deal with right now, but I need you to get messengers to Iwa and Kumo. I don't like it, but we're going to need even their help to stop Madara. Don't let them make demands. They know as well as we do that they need us. If they refuse or give you any problems, get out of there and cause as much chaos as you can on the way out. Now then, we have a few wars to prepare for. Go. As they left, and he walked down the hall towards his office, Obito appeared next to him and kept pace. Madara and Kabuto are still using the old base. Not only that, but I've also found out that Kabuto hasn't given Madara back control of his own body. Black Zetsu is taking care of controlling him. They also do in fact have Bee and Roshi. And that's not all. Zetsu attack Am. Most of the village is only lightly damaged, but a good portion is a crater. Konan is in a comatose state from chakra exhaustion and her wounds. Nagato had his eyes ripped out and is in critical condition. Naruto sighed. Not good. I don't care about the stupid conditions they set up so long ago. Send our forces into Am to help with repair and maintaining order. Make sure they are assured that the moment Nagato and or Konan are able to start giving out orders again, that our own forces will be following their orders. That includes the order to leave. Also, take a medical team with you. I want them up as soon as possible. The last thing I want is to be in charge of Am for too long. They don't want us there, so let's not be there longer than needed. Obito nodded. Yes sir. And you want me to lead this? Yes. One more thing. Black Zetsu made contact with me. He said he would wait to face you until you finished your war. He thinks it better for us to come after him because they need me to get the statue. Very good. Now, go home and get some rest. You've been busy since we all left for the Cage Summit not too long ago. Then go. Also, there was one more thing. I never did ask Ru or Shenron their thoughts, but why do you think the statue can't be summoned from Kamui? Probably for the same reason not even you wielding the Hiraishin can't get there with all of your chakra. I still can't believe that attempting to do so almost killed you. Neither can I. Alright, go get some rest. I'm going to go talk with my father and mother. I can go ahead and get the rest of Kurama's chakra as well. Obito nodded and left. Naruto Hiraishined into his office back at the Azukage Tower. He sighed before flipping through a few files on his desk. He then turned around and used the Edo Tensei to bring Minato and Kushina up out of the floor. Their mindless bodies stared at him for a moment, waiting for orders. He stood there in front of them for several minutes before finally giving them consciousness. Minato looked directly at him, having expected to wake up in front of him again. Kushina, who was only for the first time being reanimated, looked around for a moment. Naruto got her attention with his words. Welcome, both of you, to my village. Welcome to Izushiogakur. Yes, you didn't tell me exactly how you came to resurrect Izu, Naruto. Minato said. Kushina looked at him. What are you talking about, Minato? What's going on? How are we alive? How are we in Izu? And did you say? She stopped as she turned to Naruto. She fell silent. Naruto. Naruto smiled. Hello, mother. A lot of things have happened since you died. Izu was destroyed, but after Konoha betrayed me and tried to have me executed a few years ago, I resurrected Izushio and set myself on the war path. But I can explain more of that later. You are both here because I have used the Edo Tensei once used by the now dead Orochimaru and Nadaime Hokage to bring you back to life. And to your last question, Naruto said before walking up to Kushina. Yes, I am your son. Tears came to Kushina's eyes as she wrapped her arms around him. You survived. You survived. And you tuned out so handsome. She smiled as she backed up to look at her son. Naruto smiled at her. Thank you. However, as much as I would like to talk with the both of you, there was a specific reason for my bringing you back. He walked over to Minato before placing the palm of his hand on his father's stomach, just above the ceiling array. Minato could feel the other half of Kurama being drained from him. What are you doing? Minato asked. A lot has happened since you died. For one, Kurama and I have reached a middle ground. And in case you didn't know, Kurama is the Kyuubi's name. Once all of it was gone, Naruto looked at them and smiled. Now then, I have some things to explain to you both. The main point of it all, Naruto said as he went over to his desk and sat down, is that I'm recruiting you both for my war. Break. Fu walked Kichigai towards a small restaurant as he had a hand to his head. Are you doing all right? She asked. Yeah, just a headache, Kichigai said as he removed his hand. While he was looking in her direction, he noticed that she had a tanto that matched her kimono. Attached to the tanto were 3 netsuki, a small skull, a pair of dice and a dog. Kichigai also noticed that her kimono somewhat hid what he could tell was her surprisingly curvaceous figure. She gave him a small look before looking to the restaurant ahead. I think you might like the food. It's prepared by our newest member. She walked in through the entrance and greeted one of the people. Oh, and is Crow working the kitchen today? The guy nodded to her, showed him to a table, and then disappeared. She finally sat down as Kichigai did. They came to this place after she had explained how most of their society worked and showed him around the village and where he would be staying. A tent near her so that she could be there quickly should it be needed. She ordered for them as the waiter refused to acknowledge Kichigai's presence. After a while, a man came out. He was a tall, muscular man. He had short black hair in spikes to the back. He wore dark blue pants with a black belt, leather shoes and a black, long coat. He walked over to their table and pulled out a chair for himself. Hey Fu, he said with a slightly gruff voice. How's it been? As he sat down, Kichigai noticed that just above the man's right eye was a tattoo of the letters DSMK. He also noticed the 2 rings on his thumbs. Been very good, Crow. What about you? Your cooking job paying off? Fu asked. Yep. And, the best part is I get a discount on the food. Crow said. You cook it. Of course you do. Wait. Kichigai interrupted. Crow. Crow turned to him. Yeah, I know you. No, but you did know Naruto. You know him. How's he been? Actually, I'm the physical manifestation of his own insanity. Crow gave him a strange look. It's true, Fu said. And, it's also difficult to explain. Anyways, she said, looking to Kichigai, after Naruto told Crow to set out on his own path, he wound up here. Yeah, turns out that I was turned into, he paused to form quote marks with his fingers around some of his words, a semi-immortal, by Orochimaru's experiments. I age on a molecular level, but the age doesn't affect my appearance or physical abilities. But, I will eventually die of that age. Also, while my healing factor is good, I can't regenerate limbs or such like most of the others. Well, if I ever see Naruto again, I'll inform him. You do that. Anyways, I'll get that food out for you Fu. Give me a minute, Crow said as he stood up. It was after he was gone that Kichigai turned to Fu and spoke. Alright, so there's a man who can manipulate his own blood here and a manifestation of madness here, and we are in a village of immortals. Here I was thinking I had thought everything out. Well, I learned a long time ago that there is always something stranger around the next corner. Right, Kigai said, dragging the word out. Anyways, onto something that has been bothering me. I'm the iteration of someone's madness, and I still can't believe you all have an economy down here. For people who don't exist running an underground village that doesn't exist anyways. How exactly do you make it work? Kichigai asked. We pay people to leave certain amounts of supplies in certain areas for us. We pick it up and use it. Fu said. And the money? Bounties. Kichigai nodded. Their food arrived and they started to eat. So, when did you discover you were an immortal? He asked. She swallowed her food. I believe it was sometime around the day I buried my 82-year-old son about a decade ago. He paused, unsure how to respond. I'm sorry to hear that, he said sincerely. Wait a moment. Sorry. Where did that come from? He wondered, realizing now that his madness wasn't as ever-present as usual. Don't be. It was sad, but it's one of the reasons I've been able to keep my want of death at bay and probably will for plenty of decades to come. I've had quite enough of it to last me quite some time. She said, a sad look deep within her eyes. Kichigai looked around at the table as it had become strangely silent now. He looked and saw one of the bottles of dressing to his right. He grabbed it and smiled. Have you ever read that really old fiction novel about the emperor guy? Caesar, I think his name was. Yes, but I don't think he was an emperor. Whatever. The point is, do you remember how he died? Yes. Good. Kichigai said before showing her a bottle of Caesar dressing with a knife he had stabbed through the back of the bottle. It took her a moment to get the joke, but she started laughing. Kichigai smiled at her response. But instantly he stopped and looked at the table. Why am I smiling? Why am I worried about cheering her up? What's going on here? Are you alright, Kichigai? Fu asked, her laughing dying down. He looked up at her. I'm not sure, he said before cutting himself off. He fell to the ground, his body writhing as he gripped his head and screamed. His eyes were clenched shut for a moment as his screams got louder and more agonizing. Fu was over him in seconds, trying to hold him still. Kichigai, what's wrong? His response was for his eyes to open, light shining from him as he kept screaming. Then, all at once, he stopped. For Kichigai, everything went black. For him, everything stayed that way as he floated through nothingness. But then, ground formed beneath him. He opened his eyes to see a clear blue sky above him. He clenched his fist to feel the sand in his hands. He smelled salt in the air. There was a soft crash as a wave hit the beach nearby. He sat up quickly, ignoring the pain in his head. There was a beach in front of him, and that beach bleed into a concrete ground. The two materials were different, but they seemed to form together. On that concrete was something that told him that he was in a warped version of his mindscape. Mount Massive Asylum for the criminally insane. He stood up and quickly made his way over, stepping up to the main entrance. He opened the door, expecting to see the bloody atrium with the help desk and constructed dead people. Instead, he looked at something worse. His eyes widened as he looked at the double glass doors. No, he whispered as he took in the massive wooden frame and shelves. No, he shouted as he took in the forms within. What the hell? That's not possible. He screamed as he viewed the massive glass case with the many forms of himself standing within on the shelves. Are you sure about that? A voice asked from behind. Kichigai turned, his eyes widening with an emotion he didn't fully grasp. Something akin to fear. There, standing before him, was Naruto, dressed all in a black robe and barefooted. Hello Kichigai. Bet you never thought you would see this. Naruto said. Break. You want me heading to Taki? Sugetsu asked as he stood before Naruto. Yes, I will be sending you in with one of my teams. Itachi and Kisame will also be joining you. However, that won't be all. I am borrowing forces from Kiri. Chojuro and Zabuza, along with his adopted son Haku, will be joining you. And because no wielders for the heavy blade and the sewing needle have been found, I will be using the Edo Tensei so that your brother can wield them and join you. Naruto said. My brother? Yes. Unless you have a problem with me bringing him back with that technique. Sugetsu thought about it for a moment. Go ahead. I was never really able to say goodbye to the guy anyways. But, you're sending the entire 7 ninja swordsmen, or at least all the swords. This is going to be fun. Break. Naruto stood before the tanks in the semi-lit room. Each tank holding a different person. A different clone. Release subjects 5 and 9. Naruto said. The 2 tubes in front of him started draining as the children, appearing to be 12 or 13 years old, had fluids pumped through several IVs meant to bring them out of their stasis. As the tubes drained and opened, the 2 dropped to their hands and knees and started coughing up any fluids still left in their lungs. Hello, my sons, Naruto said, getting their attention. You 2 have so much to learn about the world. I will teach you both. For now, you must understand something important. The memories you have now are implanted, not your own. I gave them to you as tools as time is short. So I shall teach you. You are now your own lives, so you can now make memories of your own. They stood up. The one on the left had straight black hair and pale, almost white irises and pupils. The one on the left had spiked red hair that went upward and towards the back and black eyes. The left, a combination of Senju, Hyuga, and other various traits. The right, a combination of Uzumaki, Uchiha, and his own assortment of genetics. You are not our real father, so why call us your sons? The one on the left said. You might be clones created from genetic cocktails, but unlike Orochimaru, I don't intend on using you. Not selfishly anyways. You 2, along with the few others, were always an insurance policy. A legacy, in case I reach the point where I have no other choice. What do you mean? The one on the right asked, his voice less stern than his counterpart. Naruto tossed them each a bundle of clothes. I mean that you 2 shall be my legacy. Regardless of genetics, you are my sons. And one day, I shall give you both your own pieces of this world. You 2 shall be part of what holds this world together when I'm gone. Naruto then turned to the sound of footsteps. One of the barrier corps. Karen. Lord Azukage. We have an intruder. They have entered Azu waters. They aren't registered with the barrier and are moving fast over the water. We've sent out a strike team. Karen said. Good. Send them a signal to not engage. I will go myself. Naruto said before turning to his sons. I would like you 2 to join me once you are dressed. There is much for you to learn about the world. No doubt these intruders are spies. In the middle of a war, you must quickly learn to fight. He said as he turned to leave. Meet me at the western gate. And please forgive me for waking you in such a time of war. What do you think? The Uzumaki asked. I think that our father, from the false memories I have, would only do this if he thought there was an honest chance he wouldn't survive whatever is going to happen soon. Let's see what happens. The Hyuga said. Break. Naruto was running through one of the wooded areas where the intruders were last seen, his 2 sons at his sides. Now then, the reason I combined the genetics I did was in the hope that the clans you are comprised of wouldn't die out completely. Also, it was in the hopes of preforming my own experiment, though it will be the next generation that sees the results. He said before smiling slightly. Technically, it's 2 experiments if the plan goes how I think it will. What experiment would that be? Kureo Hyuga, a name he had decided on himself, asked. Where's the surprise in that? Kagari Uchiha, also a self-given name, asked with a small smile. Oh, trust me, the true nature of my experiment will be revealed to you when I die. Naruto said. Now, we are approaching the target. Are you ready? And are you sure you can manage the abilities you have? I think we should take this slow to find out. Kureo said. Kagari laughed. Why? I say we go all out and see what we can do. Go big or go home. He shouted before black ethereal armor with red between the plates formed tightly around his body, a samurai helmet over his head. The plates over his chest resembled plated rib bones. Now this is how you rock a Susanoo. Kureo sighed. You and I are complete opposites. But, I guess that's how brothers often are. He said before wood started growing from beneath his skin. The wood took form around him as armor as well, though his helmet took the form of many fierce faces on his face and the sides, back, and top of his head. So, you 2 really are good at that already. Naruto said. Of course. We have the memories implanted of how these have been used before. Kagari said. I may be newly born, but I can see past the false memories into what is true. I might not yet understand everything, but, so long as you continue to be the person I think you are, I hope not to disappoint you, father. Naruto looked at him. Thank you, Kagari, he said before turning forward again. Kureo, I don't know how you feel, but I hope you can come to see me as family. I hope to not disappoint either of you. A moment later and they burst through the trees to stand before their target who had stopped just before their arrival. Naruto looked at them. A large group of them. Dozens. Each one bearing Iwa or Kumo headbands. What business do you have here? You have only a few moments to explain. Naruto said. The Orb Union is to surrender to our nations. One of the Iwa shinobi said, stepping forward. Surrendering to Iwa and Kumo and they will guarantee that only a few of your people will die. All you have to do is submit. Submit. That might be a bit hard. Naruto said. Orb has its reputation to uphold. The man looked at him sternly. Choose your next words carefully. After all, we've already taken down Taki and put it in a hold. Excuse me, Naruto said, his voice becoming closer to a growl. Yes, we even brought you something, he said before opening a scroll and unsealing the head of a man. The leader Fu and Kakazu had tried to put in charge until they could get full control of the country. Don't worry about your friends. Kakazu was given to our new leader of Taki as a gift, and Fu was sold for quite the hefty price. So, what do you think? As I already said, most of your people will be killed if you refuse. If not killed, then enslaved. And by killed, I mean like that bitch the Uchiha cut down when the Konoha team tried to kill you. And when we go after you, it shouldn't take much to get Konoha to lend us their full support. Naruto looked at them before dark red chakra exploded outward, forcing even his sons to shield their faces. When they could, they uncovered their faces to see Naruto standing there in his six-tailed form. The odd angle his legs were bent at and the way his back was slouched gave him the appearance of slightly crouching. I should kill you now. Naruto said. What the hell? Naruto smirked. You bring the head of one of my representatives to the steps of my domain. You tell me my friends have been given away. You insult my dead family. You threaten my people with slavery and death. Oh, I've chosen my words carefully, fool. Perhaps you should have done the same. Now, my sons, he said before the form started receding. My sons, move. Naruto instantly moved forward as he finished, shoving a Rasengan into the face of the one who had been speaking, causing the skull to explode. He then drew his sword and started ripping into his opponents. Kagari had turned completely serious and was using taijutsu to take on his opponents. He broke arms and ribs as he took down one enemy after another, though killing none so far. Kureo was using vines from his wooden armor to tie up his. He would also block attacks and knock some out with taijutsu. A Raiten jutsu fired past Kagari and Kureo. As Naruto finished everyone else, he saw them go to kill this last man who Kureo had used vines to pull to the ground. He rushed to them. Kagari drew his Susanoo sword as Kureo formed one from the wood armor. The both went to impale this last man. However, just before the blades pierced him, they felt a hand around each of their wrists stopping them. They looked to see their father holding their wrists. I shall not allow you to kill someone yet. I will not allow you to lose that part of yourselves so soon. Father, Kureo said. Naruto smiled. You were only awakened an hour ago, but still, that is the first time you have called me, father. He then released their wrists and let them pull back before picking up the man they had tried to kill. This man, we shall drop you in a deep dark oubliette. You were fools for coming here. Even bigger fools for bringing me this threat. I think I'll torture you and then send you back in several body bags. The others too. He then started laughing. I guess that diplomacy has failed, considering my trying to get their help in dealing with Madara. Break. Naruto sat down at the small ramen stand, his sons beside him. Do you know why I engineered you to have as much power as I did at so young an age? He asked them. That was something I was wondering about myself. Kureo said. Naruto gave a small smile. I did it, because there isn't enough time to let you go through an academy. With the way things are going, I'm going to need you ready for everything. I need your help in forging the world. Why are you so obsessed with creating a perfect world? Kagari asked. Perfect world? Naruto asked before laughing. What's so funny? Kagari asked. Naruto's face grew a small smile. There is no such thing as perfect in this world. The world's not perfect, but it's there for us trying the best it can. That's what makes it so damn beautiful. That may sound cliché, but it's the truth. The average person admires perfection and seeks to obtain it. But what's the point of achieving perfection? There is none. Nothing. Not a single thing. I spit on perfection. If something is perfect, then there is nothing left. There is no room for imagination. No place left for that person to gain additional knowledge or abilities. Do you know what that means? Only despair. It is our job as human beings to create things more wonderful than anything before them, but never to obtain perfection. I'm not after a perfect world. I'm after a peaceful world. A better world. What more complex than I was expecting? Kureo said. Yes, but that's not the answer you were looking for. The answer to Kagari's original question. I am obsessed with creating the world I am because it is all that's left for me. I spent my whole life trying to achieve a better world, and this is what I've come to. I can't create a perfect world, nor do I want to, but I will make a better world. You see, I decided on that path the moment I read a certain quote many years ago. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. This is meant to say that this world is not ours to do with as we please because our parents, the previous generation, left it to us. It is ours to mold for the better, because soon, we shall be the previous generation leaving something worth leaving behind to the next generation. That is my dream. My goal. Kureo smirked. Once again. That was far more complex than anything I was expecting. Now then, my question. He said, turning completely serious. What exactly are we? Apart from your insurance policy. Are we really human? Do we have souls? Naruto stopped smiling except for a small, sad smile at the corners of his mouth. That is a sad question, and a question in which I can only speculate too. But you want my answer. Here is my answer. What are you apart from my insurance? My sons. Are you human? Only you can answer that. Genetically you are human. However, humanity, in my mind, isn't determined by genetic coding. It's determined by how you act and live. You forge your own humanity regardless of what your origin is. And your souls. The only way to know is to die. But I will show you how to see for yourself the next best thing. Are you both ready to see that? They nodded. Always remember, you can feel it if you hold your hand against your chest. Naruto said as he placed his hand against his own. It belongs to no one. It's our pulse, yours and mine. This is what brings us to the truth. It's what proves that we are the very world itself. Follow your instincts. The answer is already there. They held their hands to their chests. Kureo spoke. That is, at first it seems as nothing more than the needed beating of the organ necessary for our life to continue. But then I realize what it is. It is a heavy burden. A heart, not the physical organ. The true meaning behind it. Kagari nodded his agreement. Now you're starting to get it. A soul is something you must feel. I can't tell you what your purpose is beyond me. What you're saying, Kagari said, is that, in the end, it's our responsibility to discover our true lives. Naruto's smile returned. Precisely. Now then, how would you two like to stop discussing philosophy and go do something fun? Like what? Kureo asked. Naruto smirked. Do you two know what skydiving is? Break. Kichigai woke, his head still hurting. He sat up, now in his tent and laying on a cot. Damn it. No power, forced into hiding, and now my mind is fragmented. This is a load of. He was cut off by someone walking into his tent. It was Fu. She walked over to his bedside and sat down. She had a cool wet cloth in her hand and started patting his forehead with it, making him realize that he was extremely hot and sweating. You were overheating a lot over the last few days, so I've been taking care of you. Fu said. Last few days. Exactly how long have I been out? Kichigai asked. 7 days. You started getting better yesterday and I figured you would be awake today. Kichigai hummed in thought. So now what? Well, usually we would have already started you on a schedule for your chores and workload, but me and some of the others have a free day. I got Okiai to set this as your free day so that you could get used to how things work and even get to know some faces. He said that the only reason he would allow it was because you had been asleep in such a poor condition for so long. Alright, I still have a splitting headache, but I'm up, he said as he finally moved and stood up. Fu smiled and stood up with him. Well, as long as you can function. You said something about getting to know some faces. She smiled. Yeah, I got some friends I wanted you to meet, she said before grabbing his arm and pulling him out of the tent. Once they were up to a certain pace, Kichigai was matching her speed and walking beside her. It wasn't long before she had him on the other side of the village at one of the cave entrances. There were a few people waiting for them. One was Crow. Another was a young man in his mid-20s. He was tall and lean, and had reddish shoulder-length hair. He dressed in the garb of a Japanese monk, though the black robe had red flames on the shoulders and along the trim, and wore Buddhist prayer beads with a skull attached to it. On his back was a large guitar case. As much as he was dressed like a monk, he also had a cigarette in his mouth. Kichigai saw one sitting over in a corner. He had a black leather jacket with red and white tribal markings. His head was covered by a black cloth and a pristinely white, and expertly realistic, skull mask that curved back over the top and sides of his head. His eyes could barely be seen through the sockets of the skull. His eyes had black paint around them and had gray irises. He wore baggy black pants and large boots. What's up with him? Kichigai asked, pointing to the man in the corner. He was carving into a piece of wood. Fu looked to where Kichigai pointed. Oh, him. We call him Skull. He doesn't talk much and we never did get a name from him. He's a bit of an asshole, but you'll get used to it. If you want a nicer way of saying that, he's a good guy once you get to know him. Skull. Why's that? Because of the mask. Well, not exactly. First of all, that's not a mask. He always keeps it polished and such, but that skull is real. It was altered a bit to fit on his face, but it's real. Not sure where he got it though. Like his name, he doesn't say much about himself. And we call him that because he was a lot more dramatic when he got here. He walked into the center of the village, a bag of skulls over his shoulder, clean or dirty, covered in new or old blood if dirty, and dropped them at Okiai's feet. All he said was, "Where do I sleep?" His voice was filtered through some device or seal or something. It took us 3 months of him being here to find out that the skulls belonged to a group of mercenaries, bandits, murderers, slave traders, your usual scumbags. He had spent a little over a year hunting them for killing a group of people he had been living next to. There are 2 things that set him apart from anyone else you will meet here. She was cut off as Skull disappeared and reappeared in front of them. He spoke in a gruff, deep and dark, and synthetically filtered voice. 1. I'm the only one here who has ever bested Okiai. Shina doesn't count as that was a tie. 2. I do not need to kill. He then disappeared back into his corner. Fu sighed. Like I said, you'll get used to it. Anyways, let's get over there. They walked up to Crow and the one with the guitar. They were talking, however, they stopped and instantly turned to Fu. They hadn't been talking. They had been arguing. They shouted the same thing at her in unison. Aren't I the better shot? Fu sighed. She mumbled to herself as she rubbed her temples. I'm getting so tired of this shit. She then looked up at them. Crow. Genkaku. If you are going to keep arguing about this, just have it out. Do some target practice. I missed something. Kichigai asked. No, you didn't. These 2 are just stupid. Fu said. They looked at her with exasperation. Crow whipped his face and sighed. Fine. Let's have it out. Come on, let's set up the targets. Genkaku gave a small smile and leaned backwards. Alright, let's go. You coming, Fu? You too, Kichigai. She said she wanted to introduce me to you guys. Kichigai said, somewhat puzzled. Nope, you need no introduction, man. We all know who you are. Name's Azuma. Azuma Genkaku. Genkaku said, holding out his hand. Kichigai shook his hand. So, what's up with the monk getup? Don't look like much of a monk to me. Genkaku smirked and leaned back on his heels. He instantly had his guitar out. A V guitar with a black and red body. He struck a chord. Dude, I'm an uber monk. Genkaku, come on. Crow called from the tunnel. Genkaku gave a small wave and turned around. Kichigai then looked at Fu as Genkaku followed Crow up to the surface through the entrance. You said there were some friends you wanted me to meet. I assumed there were more people. Well, Balalaika is, let's just say she's busy. And then there's Kuro. I'm not exactly sure where he. Someone dropped from the roof of the cave and landed in front of them. There was the sound of a blade being drawn. Kichigai gripped his own sword as a blade was placed against his neck. Kichigai took note of the ornate blade. A katana with black Suka Ito weave and a bronze kashira. It had a black guard with a red blade of steel. The scabbard was a dark blue with a bronze tip and attached to the hip of the wielder. The one wielding the sword was a young man. He was a tall young-looking man with long, black hair tied into a ponytail and his bangs swept away from his face. He wore a long, black jacket with gold trim. The jacket was open with an upturned collar and rolled-up sleeves. He had a white, button-up dress shirt underneath, the top 2 buttons undone, leaving a loose hanging necktie. He wore normal black pants and white shoes. My late master gave me one simple order upon his death. When faced with an evil man, I am to kill them. As per your actions in the past, you are most certainly an evil man. The man said. Wait, Kuro. Okiai is letting him stay here. Fu said, trying to get between Kuro and Kichigai. I know who and what he is. That is why I'm going to end his life. I care not for words, but actions. It's not about a man's appearance or even what's on the inside. I judge a man by his actions. Careful. Okiai's rules. Skull said, appearing behind Kuro. He moved the skull on his face so that his mouth was uncovered before taking the wood, which he had now carved into a small instrument, and placing it to his lips. He played an off-key note and let out a small sound between a thoughtful hum and an angry growl. He then took his knife and started carving more into the instrument as he walked towards the surface. Kuro sighed and sheathed his sword. If I didn't respect Okiai as much as I do, you would no longer be alive. Kichigai sneered. Noted. Fu sighed. Come on. Let's go watch Crow and Genkaku have it out. They all turned and followed the others up to the surface. As they got closer, they went down a branch tunnel that eventually came up to the surface just outside of a training field. How exactly do you have a training field up on the surface? Aren't you afraid of being found? Kichigai asked. Nope. Okiai has barriers put up all over to block sound and any significant and sudden bursts of light. Fu said. They entered the training ground and saw that they were getting ready, the targets all set up. Now let's see which of us is better. Crow said. Blades popped out of the rings on his thumbs. He used them to cut open his forearms. Blood shot out and fired forward, slashing several targets down the center. Crow sneered. Dead center. Genkaku chuckled. He pulled his guitar off his back. He then aimed the end at one of the targets. That's nothin'. Watch this, Genkaku said. He strummed a chord, causing the end of the instrument open up along with the body. He reached into the body to grab a handle and pull the trigger that rested there, firing a burst of air that tore through the center on the target. The entire center was gone. Within seconds the guitar split in half down the center. He held 2 mechanisms in each hand that quickly fired rapid bursts of air at several targets, each burst hitting the center of a target. How about that? Genkaku asked, turning to Fu. They heard a soft note being played and turned towards Skull. He was playing a low tune on his wooden instrument. He stopped and pulled the skull back over his face. He looked up and them all. Pathetic, he said before snapping his fingers. With the snap that he produced, the entire field of targets exploded. The others covered their eyes for a moment before the light and wind died down. Crow turned and looked over at Skull. What the hell was that? Crow shouted. That was 100% accuracy. Skull said before he disappeared. Genkaku leaned back on his heels and chuckled. Man, that guy's an asshole. Fu walked over to Crow and Genkaku and pulled them in closer. Yeah, but he's our asshole, she said with a cheery tune. So, it seems you're both tied for second behind Skull. Let's get drinks and celebrate. But he cheated. Both of her friends whined in unison. Fu strengthened her grip and started dragging him along. Get over it. She then looked over her shoulder at Kichigai. You comin'? Kichigai just stood there a moment. What the? We just got up here. He then jogged to catch up them as they headed back underground. Break. Naruto stood in his office in his home. He flipped through some of the pages in a file he had. It was labeled with 2 words. End game. He sighed as he took a pen and wrote a few words on the last page. He then closed it and sat it down on his desk. He loved this desk. It was such a wonderful desk. He thought about what he was going to do for a moment. He picked up the folder and placed a hand on the desk. He sealed it into his palm, deciding to move it to a scroll later. He then dropped the folder down where the desk used to be. He took note of the spots where there was no dust due to the desk having been there for so long. He sighed and looked around. So many memories in this one room. That's it. I can't see any other way around it. No matter what I do, there is no other way. If I've run the numbers correctly, not even the destruction of all things will damage a being made of chakra so dense. Shino won't like this, and I'll be lucky if Anko doesn't kill me. He looked around. Stacks of files. So much work. Everything he had done over the years. He sighed. A tear rolled down his cheek. He fell to his knees, surrounded by the culmination of years of planning. And he felt so empty in this moment. Then everything else came flooding back in. Everything else he still felt. Everything else he still needed to do. He wiped away the lone tear before standing back up. He looked around. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small matchbox. He walked over to one of the unlit oil lamps and picked it up. He threw it into the ceiling, causing it to shatter and send oil everywhere. He walked over to the door and opened it. He stood just outside the room for a moment before taking out a match from the box. He scratched it against the side of the box a few times. It didn't light. He cursed before striking it harder. It lit. He looked back at his office. A wind blew past him and ruffled the pages, the folder. His final folder. He saw words on different pages. Must protect, defend, strike fast and retreat, destroy northern flank. Then the final part. The last page. The last sentences on the last page of his final plan. The wind stopped it on the very last page. Final part. Should she be reanimated, and failure to stop her rebirth is almost certain, fight her off while building up power. Do everything in power to destroy her. Final step to the final part, with the expenditure of power required, die. He knew the words but read them anyways. Over and over and over and over. He then felt a light sting on his fingers. He looked down at his fingers to see that the match had burned down to his fingertips before extinguishing. He then threw away the match and lit a new one. This time he didn't hesitate. He flicked the match into the room. It landed on one of the files. It smoked for a moment before it extinguished. He sighed. This time, he tossed the match onto one of the oiled spots. It finally lit. The room was instantly up in flames. He closed the door and applied a containment seal. Naruto sighed. No more plans. This is it. Now, there is only the end game. Break. Naruto, is this such a good idea? Shino asked. What do you mean, Shino? Naruto asked as they stood before the room full of clones. Everything. These clones. Your plan for the immortals. Your mobilization of orb. And then keeping that from everyone. I'm not pleased about the fact that you haven't used it, and the only reason I haven't killed you for not doing so is because you are my friend and I am trying to trust you. That, and I don't have the reserves to do it myself. Shino, are you willing to trust me until the very end? I have a plan laid out because I have no doubt that certain things are about to happen. And I think that I will use it. Right there at the end of all this. Shino, I have a feeling that the path I walk. He paused and let out a deep sigh. He turned around and walked towards the door but stopped to place his hand on Shino's shoulder. When this all ends, when we finally win, when the world has turned into what you, me, Hinata, Anko, and so many others have dreamt of for so long, it will be in that moment that I will lead my own path, and in that moment, where I led, you cannot follow. Do you understand? What are you saying, Naruto? What are you planning? Where exactly do you intend on leading? Naruto didn't respond as he kept walking down the hall that led to the exit. He got to the door just before his voice echoed through the hall and the chamber. If things go the way I think they will, then you'll know soon enough. The next sound was that of the door opening and closing. Shino sighed. I don't know what path you're talking about, but you should know something. Whatever path you take and wherever you might go, I will follow you, my friend. Me and Anko will both follow you wherever you. He paused as realization hit him. Please tell me you don't actually believe that's going to happen. You're telling me that that's the path you intend to take. And let me guess, you have every intention of making sure Anko and I don't follow you. Oh well, I guess that if the worst comes to pass, I'll have to make sure that I'm the one leading that path. Break. Kichigai stood in a bar next to Genkaku, who was leaning against a table, as they waited their turn on a dartboard. Crow had managed to get all of his darts into the center of the board and Fu was working on her darts, though they mostly hit around the rim of the board, causing her to mope. So, what exactly is this village of immortals? Some of the records I've read were never clear. And then Kakazu said this was the true extent of Hidden's cult. Kichigai said, well, that cult has been allowed to stay here for the past few decades out of hospitality. Genkaku said, not only that, but also so that they could be managed. It allowed us to keep an eye on them. Man, they could kill entire nations in a night if they went unchecked. Well, what were your thoughts of them? This place was always to help people who were immortal keep sane and find a purpose. Those guys were all about death for the wrong reasons. Sure, I kill because I sometimes need to, but I have another reason for it. Don't get me wrong, I know this reason will never truly make what we do right or make up for some of the wrongs I've committed, but it's really all I have in the end. And what reason is that? We don't think twice about putting a wounded animal out of its misery, right? Kichigai shrugged. Yeah, so what? Genkaku's face curled into a sadistic grin. Well, why are people any different? Until I'm saved, this is what I do. Releasing my fellows from the bonds of fear and oppression, from the shame of betrayal, I'm a saint, man. I erase contempt, regret, sorrow, insanity, all the burdens of life. I just wish someone would be kind enough to do as much for me. I think you mean you wish someone kind enough to do so who can do the same for you. His face faltered into a sad smirk. Yeah, that too. But think about it. We have all these problems that fade away with death. When I kill, I'm helping someone find peace. I'm sure the people you kill don't see it that way. The world is always resisting change. Especially change for the better. Kichigai picked up a drink. Can't argue with you there, he said before drinking from his glass. Break. Kichigai opened his eyes, and sat up. He clutched his head. The past few nights had held nothing but headaches as he was forced to scream at his mind that what was happening couldn't possibly happen. It had gotten worse over the last few months. This is the price of owning your own life. That price is the heaviest burden any human being can ever carry. He remembered his mind saying to him. He sighed. He had work to get done. His chores for the day. There was a knock on one of the wood posts of his tent. He sat up. It was Fu. She was the only one who ever bothered to stop by. Over the months he had been here, only she, Genkaku, and Crow had actually interacted with him. He did have to say though that he enjoyed hanging out with them. He had, however, still hated Crow for showing him just how poorly he handled his liquor. Same for Gankaku giving him that strange smelling cigarette. He figured it was irregular as Genkaku was prone to smoke, but Kichigai had asked about the strange scent of the cigarette. Genkaku had just said that it was a special occasion. What Kichigai had later found out was that this special occasion was that of a new immortal being recruited. Apparently Genkaku had ripped the girl's internal organs out only for them to drag themselves back inside her body and her torso to seal shut. Genkaku was so impressed that he had literally carried her back to the immortal's village. Coming back to himself, Kichigai got a shirt on and walked over to the opening. He paused as he went to pull back the flap. He gripped his aching head for a moment. A series of images flashed in his mind. Naruto stood in his mind as his flesh started to fall away, along with his clothing. There stood a white silhouette with the vague outline of Kichigai's own self. Naruto had willingly embraced his truth, and now Kichigai was forced to endure his own. Would you like to know the truth of your despair now? Kichigai's truth said in a slightly raspy and childish voice. The truth is, that you, with a body of your own, now carry a truly heavy burden. That burden is a soul. The soul that you now carry is your own. So now that you have a soul, you must now carry a similar fragmented mind as your original, as Naruto. That is why you are experiencing nature other than your own original piece. Because now you must deal with a new one. Is that why? Is that why I'm feeling this terrible pain? My mind being fragmented like his. No, you are so foolish to believe you are like him. Your mind is fragmented, yes, but never compare your situation to that of the original. Your mind is fragmented because of reasons you will know soon enough. And when I do, can I finally cast off these pathetic feelings growing for that woman? That is one of many possibilities. However, you might not survive long enough. Why? Can you not feel it? Naruto is here. What? Kichigai looked up and walked out of the tent. As he expected, Fu was standing there, waiting for him. I need to see Okiai, he said. Fu was shocked for a moment. He's in AM meeting right now. She stuttered out. With who? Break. Tell me, why do I feel Roku's chakra radiating from you? Okiai asked. He left it to me as his parting gift from this mortal coil. Naruto said. The two were in Okiai's office. Okiai himself stood at a window looking out over the village while Naruto sat in a chair offered to him. So he finally managed to die. Good for him, Okiai said with a small smile. Did you know him throughout his many years as the first Uzumaki? Naruto asked. Okiai laughed. Left me out of his tales of valor, did he? Oh well, I was never on the valor side of his exploits. I once offered him a place here. I was founding this place around the same time he was developing a zoo. But, there was a particular reason I laughed at what you said. You called Roku the first Uzumaki. And you find that funny. Yes, Okiai said before turning around to look at Naruto. He may have gained the Rinnegan and the ability not to age, but when I was born, I was given true immortality. Why? Because I am the first Uzumaki. He then chuckled at himself. Though you could say that we were the first Uzumaki. We were born to the same day, but Roku Uzumaki was my younger brother by a few minutes. Naruto was shocked by that information. You're an Uzumaki. Roku's brother. Yes, it's why, long ago, I tried to bring him here. I was always of the mind that immortals should stay together so that we could find some semblance of life. We needed to kill so that we wouldn't lose our minds to the madness of never-ending life. So, when my brother died, to leave a zoo and try to carry on his good work, I tried to convince him to join us. He refused, and in the end, he wound up standing in our way on more than one occasion. There was once a time when most of our people were still in the middle of their new lives and death was something they craved like a dehydrated man craves water. I was trying to get them through that rough time and led them to attack a village. Now, that village had long been home to a group of Rouge shinobi and bandits for several years, but Roku tried to stop us from attacking for the same reason most people hadn't attacked at the time. Civilians, hostages, and the bastard children those Rouges had dumped on the horse and forced, he snarled the word with loathing. That they forced on any woman they wanted. They were monsters. I was old enough by that point that I could last on just killing one even though it had been years since my last kill, which suited me just fine considering I wanted the leader myself. So we get there, and who's standing in the gate? My very own brother. He didn't want me to bring the immortals into that village because we both knew that they would tear the place apart, killing even the civilians. I could accept that because of what that village was turning into. A cesspool of filth. The people there had become broken and complacent. Roku, he couldn't accept that. Why are you telling me all of this? Naruto asked. I'm trying to explain to you why I've been having some of the immortals go after you and Roku even though only a few knew who Roku was or why he was able to kill immortals. Okiai said looking toward the floor for a moment. He then pulled out his own chair and sat down. He always tried to play it off as his own version of the particle release, but you and I both know what it really is. It's the same thing you've been spending the past few months trying to replicate with Roku's chakra. I believe you call it the destruction of all things. He would always use a very low power form of it to fight immortals. Funny enough, as much as we all wanted to die, we fought him rather than accept what he was doing. Do you know why? Because we had found meaning here in this village. So, I was forced to fight my own brother when he stood in our way. But even he couldn't stop us with me being his opponent. I was the one immortal he could never bring himself to kill. The moment I realized this, I used myself to block him when he tried killing anyone running past him and into the village. It's also when he resurfaced recently, I was so quickly after him. I'll admit, sending Bluebeard and Ryunosuke after you was a mistake. Those two were always just under the same level of instability as Hidden, but they were controllable. To an extent anyways. So all of this so far, attacking me and looking for Roku, was for what? To make him join you. To kill him. What was it all for? Okiai turned his chair to the side so he could look out the window again. You know, all these years and I've never been able to figure that part out. I was never able to decide what to do with him. But now that he's dead. Yes, now that he's dead, the question that remains is, what now? I don't know. All my life I've been trying to create a society where people like me and my brother can earn a purpose. I sometimes can't help wonder if my only purpose in creating this place was for my brother's sake, trying to get him to accept that what I was trying to do was all for a good outcome, to bring together people like we and teaching them to control or move past the urges of death, but now I'm not so sure. All I can do now is try to keep going with it. Try to maintain. Naruto gave a small grunt. You sound a lot like me. Trying to endure. To make sure that what you wanted to create sees the end of the struggles. Yes, but with me it's different. I was never exactly sure what I wanted. This just wound up being what came of it. I wanted this, yes, but at the same time, I was never sure. How exactly did this come to be? How did I come to form this place? I was traveling after our parents died, mine and Roku's, and still was unaware that he and I were not the only immortals out there. I was ignorant back then. And then I eventually found the one immortal I know of who's older than I. Shina. Originally she was a monster, always killing anyone who came across her path. Though that was usually few considering she liked to keep to herself. But, as old as she wasn't as powerful or quick to heal. He stopped to chuckle a bit. You should have seen her face when her fist was through my head and I was still talking to her. I grabbed her hand and was eventually able to get her to listen. It wasn't until years later that I was able to start bringing her over to my way of thinking. Answer, that's how it went. For years we went, picking up immortals and anyone like us along the way. Kind of like we picked up your friend Crow recently. Crow. He's immortal. More like, half immortal. Amazing healing factor, long lifespan, but he can be killed and can't regenerate limbs or whole organs, and while his age doesn't exactly show, it will eventually kill him. All thanks to Orochimaru. I'll let you talk to him later. But for now, you and I both know that we have more pressing concerns. Kichigai and Madara. Madara first. Kichigai I can handle later. Besides, as long as you're sheltering him, I can't get to him. As for Madara, yes, I was hoping to gain your support on that matter. In such a situation, I think that people as unpredictable and sadistic as Bluebeard and Ryunosuke, or anyone from their cult for that matter, could be exceedingly useful. They could, but I've used my own methods of disposing of them. Really? Yes. I was always sheltering them out of courtesy. They were beasts who only cared about causing pain and death for the god. I only kept them around for my own purposes. But now things are moving and I needed to get rid of them while I still could. This war ends and the few people who can control them aren't around anymore, the world we leave behind won't stand much, if any, chance. But I've already got their replacements organized. People I'm much more proud to fight beside. Before anyone could continue speaking, the door busted open. Kichigai stood there panting, gripping his head in pain. Naruto, I want my power back. I want this agony in my head to stop. Naruto stood up and stared at him with wide eyes that then narrowed. Okiai, should he attack me, am I able to kill him? Should he attack first? Yes. Okiai said, remaining perfectly calm. Naruto then returned his attention to Kichigai. What agony in your head? Do you mean, number? That's not possible. Kichigai smirked. That's what I said. Then truth showed up and I knew I was screwed. He panted out through his pain. So, now we've reached an impasse. No. Now we reach the point where I kill you and get my power back. Kichigai shouted as he charged Naruto. He forced Naruto out of the window. They fell, but Naruto was able to split apart and land on his feet, Kichigai landing on his feet a short distance away. Sorry Kichigai, but I don't intend on letting you kill me. Naruto said before holding out his hand. A massive disc spun in his hand, a Rasengan spinning in the center of it. Okiai jumped from his window and landed off the side. Don't fire that down here. It will take forever for the proper repairs to be made. He said. Don't worry. At this range, the moment it goes off I can contain it. Besides, I'm putting a small enough amount of chakra that the blast should be exceedingly small anyways. Naruto said right before he threw the disc. Kichigai threw his hands out. No. As he did this, the disc was deflected in a different direction. What the hell? Naruto said to himself. He then turned his attention as a nearby support pillar was consumed in the explosion he had been unable to contain in his shock. Massive rocks started falling, both from the ceiling and the pillar. Fu, Crow, and Genkaku came around a corner just as a large piece of debris fell from above them. Kichigai screamed in pain before his hand shot out towards all of the falling rock. Unravel, he shouted. A beam of white light fired outward, destroying everything in its path. That's not possible. He shouldn't have that kind of power. Naruto shouted. As the earth finally stopped shaking, a hole now in the ceiling here the stone once fell from, and the light faded away, Kichigai's eyes glowed. He screamed in pain, gripping his head in unbearable pain. Make it stop. Make it stop. Kichigai screamed before his body straightened and one of his eyes started glowing red rather than white. His power comes from the fragmented mind. He must now make a choice for his survival if he is to stop the pain. He must now decide, he said before falling face forward onto the ground. When his eyes opened again, Kichigai stood in the center of an infinite landscape. He was at the center where four massive corners met. An expanse of fire off to one area, a calm ocean to another. Solid ground to one area, and solid air to the last. Standing over the fire area was a form of Kichigai dressed in a red suit. The one over the water was a form of him with blue hair and in a blue kimono. The one over the earth wore a tan shirt and dark green pants and sclera in the eyes rather than gold. In the air was far more detailed version of Kichigai's truth. Kichigai spun around to look at them all. They were all so calm looking. And then he realized why. He became calm. The pain was gone. Did you expect something else? The one on the earth area asked. Much like your original, you are in an imaginary place. There is no pain here. So then, this is my mind. Kichigai asked. Where else? Mars perhaps? The one in red asked. The entire landscape changed and they were standing on red rock in a vast expanse with hills and even mountains out to the sides. It stayed like that for a moment before going back to its original form. Silence. Truth said in his raspy voice. This is about more than location. This is about so much more. The destiny of who we are is at stake. Yes, yes, Truth. We get it. Now let's get on with it. The one in the red suit said. Stability, hatred and anger, truth, love, and insanity. Truth said, gesturing to the earthen one, the red one, himself, the ocean one, and then Kichigai respectively. You must choose now the direction you wish to take. The one in blue said. We represent the strongest warring pieces of your mind. It's been almost 7 months that you have been here. I am what has grown in you for this village you are living in and some of the people in it. So what? You are my love of these people? Kichigai asked. He received a nod. I am the stability you have been trying to establish with your mind so broken. Trying so hard to get rid of the pain of your shattered mind has you trying to stabilize. Trying to make everything steady. I'm the one that's left, I guess. Said hatred. I am your anger and hatred of the world. Most of your anger has come from not having your power, from losing. But your hatred is part of your insanity. Hating the world and being angry that you are fragmented. So now what? Kichigai asked. You must choose. You're fragmented. Stability said. The only way to save yourself now is to choose the path you take. Hatred said. You must determine the path of your life. Love said. Do not sit on our ass as the events that affect us unfold to determine the course of our life. We are going to take a stand. We're going to defend it. Right or wrong, we're going to defend it. Truth said. I must choose. Choose what? One of you. Kichigai asked. A path. You must choose a path. Love said. You must choose a path that leads to your survival. Stability said. And what if I choose the wrong path? Kichigai asked. You will remain fragmented. You will suffer and die. Your mind will rip itself apart in its agony. You will die a slow and painful death. Hatred said. Kichigai thought for a moment. So I have to choose my own path. In doing so, I either destroy myself or bring myself to the apex of myself. But you must choose the correct path. Truth said. Kichigai was quiet for a moment. Then his eyes shot open. The correct path. You said, there are not multiple paths. There is only one path. And it includes none of you. Wrong. Truth said, a smirk on his face. But you were close. Try again. Kichigai was quiet. It includes all of you. The ground disappeared and they all started falling. Kichigai turned to look into the sky. A shadow loomed. He saw a maniacal-looking version of himself with his crown on his head. He was massive and loomed over everything. You have to choose. Truth shouted over the howling wind. Kichigai looked over at Truth before turning and seeing a solid ground quickly approaching. Choose. Live or die. Choose. All shouted at him. Even the massive version. The ground came up quickly. I choose to live, he shouted. He clenched his eyes. When Kichigai opened his eyes again, he was standing over an outstretched ledge over an infinite expanse. He turned and found that he couldn't look behind him. He just came to the same view that he had just turned from. The same ledge. There is no looking back. A voice said from behind. Kichigai turned around again. It was the same view again, but this time with someone standing there. A mirror image of himself. So now what? Kichigai asked. Now you move on. You did the same thing Naruto did when he accepted every fragment of himself. You are still yourself, but the madness is no longer dominant. The mirror image said. I'm not insanity anymore. Not quite. You are still madness, but it is something you choose now. So then, what am I? You are, we could go by the name Ninjan. Human. Are you serious? It's your thought. I know. I think I'm going to keep being Kichigai. I will always be madness. Then everything went black. He opened his eyes and found he was laying on a bed. He looked around and saw that he was in a cabin. He got up and looked around. He walked down a flight of stairs and found himself in a living room. In front of him stood a woman. One of the objects of one of the fragments. His madness had changed it at first, but it was what his mind had told him it was. Fu walked over to him, but she was surprised when he hugged her. All this time that my head has been in agony. My mind was warring over fragments of itself. But now I am no longer what I once was. Kichigai said. He released her and held his hand out towards a wall. Unravel. A blinding white light appeared and disappeared quickly. There was now a large piece of a wall missing. Not broken away. Not cut away. Just gone. Kichigai turned sharply at the sound of slow clapping. Naruto was standing there as well, clapping his hands together for a moment before speaking. Here I thought that you regaining your power was impossible. But now I see exactly why. What I did to you was meant to keep you from accessing your power. But then you changed so drastically that the seal's hold on you was broken. So now what? Are you going to kill me? Kichigai asked, preparing to fight. Not unless you attack me. You and I both know that if you were still as insane as you were before, you would be rapidly deteriorating. You aren't, so you're not. You're different. I'm still me. Kichigai shouted. Naruto tensed. If you were still my madness, you would have already attacked me. Even though you have no weapon. You might still be you, but you are different. Have been since you left my mind. He then sighed. I've already taken the last week to sort everything out with Okiai. So, I'll leave the rest to you, Kichigai. Meanwhile, I have a eulogy to give. He then turned to a door and was about to leave. Wait, Kichigai called after him. What now? We were going to fight. I was going to get my power back. What now? Now you decide. If you start becoming chaotic and destroying things, then I'll be back for you. If not, then you are no longer my responsibility. Then what am I? If you want that answer from me, ask me when we meet again. If you choose to become insane again, follow the example of what you were, then be what you said you were. The king of madness. Or be something different. I don't know. Me. I've got people to remember me. So, you could say I'm the immortal king. You already know why. My values. People don't die until they are forgotten. Anyone who is remembered forever is immortal. Anyways, now it's time for me to go. Naruto then walked out of the door. So, now what? Fu asked, speaking up for the first time since Kichigai had woken up. I'm still not sure. Break. Shino stood resolutely in his black suit next to Anko. She was wearing a trench coat much like her usual one, only black, over a gray dress. Naruto walked up to the podium next to Hinata's coffin. He stood there a moment and noticed how similar the sky was compared to the funeral of the Sandaime Hokage. Naruto sighed and looked out over the crowd. They were in the main square of the village. However, that wasn't enough. He hadn't expected for, quite literally, every citizen of Azu no Kuni who wasn't manning the borders to be there. In the walls, around the walls, on rooftops, in alleyways. He set up a seal so that a projection of what was happening and what was being said was shown over the village for all to see and hear. Even those on the borders and in the other nations were getting this broadcast. He was surprised. He himself had grown to love this nation and would do anything for these people, especially with Hinata, Shino, and Anko standing beside him, but he hadn't expected the entire nation to show up for Hinata's funeral. But then he pushed past his own sadness. Most of them were also here because this was in commemoration of everyone who had been lost when Madara attacked. Hinata's coffin wasn't the only one there. Men, women, children. One thought entered his mind as he readied himself for what he was going to say and do here. I hope I'm doing the right thing here. He looked around before holding his arms out and letting them fall again. I planned for a ton of things in my life, but never this. Never to be speaking for this occasion. I thought, I long ago fooled myself into thinking that once I had gained enough power, I would be able to protect everyone I hold dear. To protect everyone. But you don't get to stand at the top without making enemies looking to tear you down. I wish more than anything else that I was really able to protect you all. All who have died, all who have been injured, all who will be killed, all who will suffer or have suffered because of my mistakes or because I was unable to, because I wasn't here. I know that some of my friends have told me not to blame myself, and I know that many of you would tell me the same. However, I am the reason you were all here. I brought the Jinchuriki to this place and made it a target for forces beyond anything I can stop. I formed this nation. I promised you all I could protect you. He paused as his breath hitched. Tears fell from his eyes. I failed. I failed to protect my home. My people. I will come back to that. I want to first commemorate these people. Time flows through empty spaces. Souls move to better places. Where have we been? Where are we going? Life goes on. I have decided to be extremely sentimental with this, I hope you don't mind. I have always known that death is unstoppable, but now it's time to truly embrace this. Only once people deny that which they love, do they become able to create it anew. Perhaps, the book I write, too, will die one day just like my body will. However, people have to accept that death is unavoidable. They will probably be gone in 10 years. Their books will no longer exist in 100 years. People accept this. Eternity is promised neither to humans nor to books. We live because we were born. Nothing in this world is eternal. The truth is that everything is temporary. Especially people in our lives. I look at you all, and all the people I know, and I realize that I can't imagine any other people in their place during the time I have known them. But when the people we call friend or family leave our lives, we sometimes experience fear and sadness and sentiment. And when a man faces fear, his soul is tested. What he was born to seek, what he was born to achieve, his true nature will become clear. We always try to look towards the future for answers. We are all far-sighted, we give importance to those things that are far from us, while neglecting the things that are close to us. Only to realize their value later when they are out of reach again. As they have become now. If you try to acquire something, you'll lose something else along the way. That's the truth of this world. No matter how sad it is. This world changes. No one can refute that. The past and future will always be things we want to change. But no matter what, you must remember the past. That past doesn't define you. It just gives you the starting point for who you're going to be. So now we come to this. These people we feel we must say goodbye to. But never say goodbye. If you don't say goodbye, then you aren't really gone. You just aren't here right now. Naruto then leaned over the podium. He was silent for a moment. I will hate myself for a long time to come for this, but I have something else to say. Take this day to pay your respects. But then prepare yourselves. In 3 days, Azu will be at war. Break. Sasuke was sitting at the Hokage's desk. He knew he was almost out of time. Only another few days and Naruto would be here. He was almost out of time. There was a knock at the door before a scout came in. Lord Hokage, we have a problem. Iwa is destroyed. That will be all for this video. Sasuke be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. There's nothing left of it.